DALI, or Danish Audiophile Loudspeaker Industries. Danish company that manufactures various types of loudspeakers, audio installation equipment and premium headphones. DALI was established in 1983. It was founded by audiophile, engineer and entrepreneur Peter Lyngdorf, who is also known for the Lyngdorf Audio and Steinway Lyngdorf brands. The ultra-premium high-end Steinway Lyngdorf brand is a joint project between legendary grand piano manufacturer Steinway & Sons and Lyngdorf Audio, created to combine the aesthetics and prestige of Steinway with Lyngdorf technology. However, that's not what this is about right now. DALI's history began in the early 80s, when the managers of Peter Lyngdorf's hi-fi club and chain of shops began to notice that customers often demanded loudspeakers that were not available on the market, with specific requirements in terms of size, shape, cost, and sound. Lyngdorf and his partners decided to meet the customers' needs. They decided to produce their own loudspeakers that would meet the market's demands and fill this unusual and promising niche, thus the DALI brand was born. At first, the acoustics were created by engineers who had previously worked for the American brand So in Vega, and the role of the factory was taken over by the garage of Peter Lyngdorf's house. 3 years later, in 1986, the company had a full factory in a separate building in the town of Norge, which is located near the city of Aarhus. In addition to DALI loudspeakers, this new factory also assembled So in Vega models for the European market. Interestingly, Lyngdorf and Company originally sold loudspeakers under the NAD brand, which at that time incorporated many manufacturers of advanced modern audio equipment. The first system produced by the company under its own name DALI was the Shelf Model No. 2, presented to the public in 1985. This compact loudspeaker was an example of how engineers strive to fulfill all the requirements of the high-quality audio enthusiasts. The speakers had to be budget-friendly, with a wide dynamic range, increased sound clarity and not humming bass. They also had to work with a wide range of amplifiers. This debut two-way speaker was given a 6.5-inch main driver with a laminated wood pulp and polyvinyl cone, and fitted with an inch soft dome tweeter playing up to 20 kHz. This model was already based on a principle that DALI still adheres to nowadays: wide dispersion of sound, which means that the loudspeaker can be turned away from the listening position. Shortly after the release of the DALI 2, the company introduced larger models in this series, the Shelf Type 3 and the floor-standing 4, 6, and 8. The cabinets of all the speakers were finished in veneer. The DALI loudspeaker design process of those days began with determining the size of the cabinet and calculating its geometry to avoid standing waves. The company would then select the appropriate woofer, calculate its parameters, design a matching tweeter and mid-range driver, and find the optimum placement of the drivers on the front of the cabinet, aiming for wide dispersion and minimal distortion. Once the drivers were mounted, the engineers measured their distortion, frequency response, and other parameters, and with this data in hand, they proceeded to design the crossover. From the crossover, the company aimed to obtain an even frequency response and correct phase response. The next stage was auditions. When developing the speakers, the company focused not only on measurements under ideal conditions, but also on how the speakers would behave in real rooms. For this purpose, 3 test rooms of different types were built. The test auditions involved listeners with different musical preferences. The test participants compared the sound in a blind test and then described their impressions, while DALI engineers tried to highlight the most critical observations, compare the test results with laboratory measurements and solve the problems. After the changes were made, the same group listened to the acoustics again using the same method. Only after everyone in the group was satisfied with the acoustics, the speakers were put into mass production. This was the approach behind DALI products. The first model that the company classed as a high-end loudspeaker was the DALI 40. It was a massive 68 kg loudspeaker with 7 drivers per column. The mid-range and tweeter were designed according to the D'Appolito scheme, with the tweeter between the 2 mid-range drivers. A special acoustic design, called Type L, was responsible for reproducing the low-frequency range. 2 speakers were located on the front panel, in a common enclosure, and operated as a phase inverter, while 2 more were located inside the cabinet and played opposite the first 2 in separate chambers. This system, combining phase inverters and closed boxes, allowed the bass drivers to effectively dampen each other's vibrations and play from 25 Hz without distortion. This was supported by the aluminium used as one of the cabinet materials, together with the veneered MDF panels. 10 years later, DALI launched a special version of the 40, the DALI 40 SE, with a special feature that the speaker could be placed almost anywhere in the room without compromising the sound. One of the most iconic models of the 90s was the Skyline Dipole loudspeaker, released in 1992. Together with a long ribbon tweeter, the system used classic dynamic drivers in the mid-range and bass frequencies. The lineup included two models, Skyline 1000 and 2000, which differed in the number of mid-range drivers and the size of the woofers and tweeters. During the same period, DALI began to actively enter markets in other countries. The company's goal was to become one of the largest manufacturers and suppliers of acoustics in the world, and it was in the 90s that it began to actively spread on the world stage. In 1996, the Megaline loudspeaker was launched. It was a large model with a height of 2.3 meters, which was a line array. Its enclosure was divided into 3 sections on top of each other, housing 12 6.5-inch drivers and 3 30-inch ribbon tweeters. This solution allowed the speaker to create a smooth sound field from floor to ceiling. At the same time, the massive 260 kg speaker proved to be a relatively light load for the amplifiers. Initially, the model was only made to be demonstrated at a show, but suddenly the visitors liked it and it was sent into production. The height of the speaker also helped to eliminate floor and ceiling reflections. In 2001, the company opened its first foreign sales office in Germany. A year later, DALI introduced the Euphonia loudspeaker range, which introduced the hybrid tweeter system that has become the company's specialty. In this system, a module consisting of a classic soft dome tweeter and a ribbon tweeter is responsible for reproducing high frequencies. The company's signature brown wood fiber drivers also featured in this loudspeaker. Euphonia was the company's top of the range and also had a special acoustic design of the bass module, combining a horn with a phase inverter. The loudspeakers in this series were handmade. After the release of this top range, DALI concentrated on more affordable models and introduced the Concept series. These speakers could be placed a short distance from the wall due to the front panel phase inverter. In this series, the hybrid high-frequency module was replaced by a dome tweeter to keep costs down. The range included 3 floor-standing models, 2 shelf models, a subwoofer, and a center channel loudspeaker, allowing concept speakers to be used in any size home theater or to match a stereo pair to a room of almost any size. In 2004, the company celebrated its 20th anniversary with the release of the Helicon series, which took a middle position in the brand's catalogue. This series borrowed many of its technological solutions from the older Euphonia, but there were also a number of differences. A tweeter with a smaller dome diameter was used, ferrite magnets were used instead of rare earth magnets, and the Helicon's tweeter overlay was cut from aluminium sheet rather than cast to mold. The magnets in the woofers and mid-range drivers became smaller. The cabinet was made of multi-layer MDF sheets, and additional stability and vibration protection was provided by a granite base plate. These changes allowed the principles presented in Euphonia to be realized in a more affordable price segment. In 2005, the company opened a sales office in the UK, continuing its expansion on the global audio scene. By 2006, DALI speakers were already sold in 50 countries. In 2007, DALI opened its own factory in Ningbo, China. Since then, DALI's budget ranges, as well as various components, are manufactured in the Chinese factory, while the top ranges are made in Denmark. Since 2010, DALI has been producing all of its loudspeaker drivers in-house. Both the Chinese factory and the Danish factory were equipped with the necessary machinery to produce the speakers. The first speaker model to use DALI drivers was the Mentor 6 SE. In 2010, the company also introduced the Icon MK2 series of speakers, which combined the advantages of Danish and Chinese production. The cabinets were made in Denmark, while the speakers and components were manufactured in China, making the series quite affordable. In this series, the designers have emphasized the alignment of bass and high frequencies in an attempt to achieve a more warm and full-bodied sound. The Icon 6M-K2 floor-standing model won the EISA Award for Best European Speaker 2010-2011. A year later, DALI unveiled the unusual-looking Phazon F5 loudspeaker. This geometry was the result of DALI engineers' desire to eliminate unwanted reflections and standing waves, as well as to reflect modern aesthetics. The speaker cabinets in this series were made from aluminium and, as with the Icon, the front panel was double-layer, making the cabinet rigid and with minimal reflections. The tweeter was isolated from the vibrations created by the mid-range woofer drivers. In many ways, however, this model was based on the Mentor series introduced in 2006. That same year, the company launched a new budget series, the Zensa. For the next range, which became the top-of-the-line series, the company patented a new magnetic system material, soft magnetic compound. It first appeared in the Epicon series and then became part of a linear magnetic system that reduced distortion in the mid-range woofer drivers. At first the company used this material only in the top-end models, but later such magnets began to be used in budget units as well. Since the release of Epicon, DALI speakers no longer use iron magnets. The Epicon was also characterized by its robust, multi-layer construction and the curved shape, which, according to the developers, had a positive effect on the sound. A hybrid high-frequency module mounted in a special aluminium plate provided a wide dispersion of sound. After the release of Epicon, the company introduced a completely different type of audio device, the cubic free active wireless system. The company continued to develop this series, adding the Cubic 1 model a year later. The aforementioned SMC material after Epicon first appeared in the Rubicon series, released in 2014. At the same time, the Zensa series introduced the 5AX active loudspeaker, based on the Zensa 5 floor-standing model. Later, in 2017, the company announced a new budget Spectre range. In it, the main emphasis was placed on working with a wide variety of amplifiers and receivers. In 2018, another budget line of DALI, Oberon, appeared on the market. These speakers were equipped with only one tweeter, but the mid-woofer drivers received a magnetic system based on SMC material. In 2019, DALI launched its first headphones, the IO6 and IO4 wireless models. They featured drivers with proprietary wood fiber cones and signature sound tuning. Since 2020, more than a dozen speaker lines have been available in the DALI catalog: active, passive, budget, top-of-the-range, in-wall and wireless. Higher models, as before, continued to be produced at the Danish factory. Lower series, as well as components, at the brand's own factory in China. As at the beginning of its journey, DALI's focus today is on developing new technologies to create products that are suitable for a wide range of listeners in the 21st century. In the early 2020s, DALI made a bet on wireless technology. In 2020, the company reactivated its popular Oberon range with the launch of the Oberon C series, affordable active loudspeakers with wireless sound support. The series includes Oberon 1C shelf speakers, Oberon 7C floor standers and Oberon on-wall C flat-wall speakers, similar in design to the passive models, but with built-in amplifiers of 50 watts per driver, DACs and DSP crossovers. To transmit the signal to the speakers, the company introduced the Sound Hub Compact, a wireless device that receives sound via Bluetooth, HDMI ARC, optical or analog and streams it to the speakers in 24-bit 96 kHz digital format. In the same time, DALI has strengthened its position outside Europe. Since 2018, the Canadian group Lenbrook, owner of NAD, PSB, Blue Sound brands, has become the brand's partner in North America, taking over the distribution of DALI products in the US. In 2020, the cooperation expanded. Lenbrook Americas was granted exclusive rights to the Canadian market as well. However, DALI remained an independent Danish manufacturer. In 2021, DALI took the next step in the wireless direction with the launch of the Deli EQUI wireless hi-fi platform, which enables the creation of stereo systems, multi-room networks, and even a complete home cinema without wires. The centerpiece of the system is the modular DALI Sound Hub. With the optional BlueOS NPM2i board, it integrates into the BlueOS ecosystem for high-res audio streaming throughout the home. And with the HDMI module, it wirelessly streams multi-channel audio to the Oberon C and Epicon C series speakers. At Munich's High-End 2022, the company unveiled its new flagship, the DALI Core. These floor-standing loudspeakers, weighing around 160 kilograms a pair, are the quintessence of DALI's decades of experience. Core is a 5-way construction with proprietary technologies, two 11.5-inch bass drivers, a 7-inch mid-range driver with patented SMC2 magnet system, and an EVOK hybrid tweeter. In 2023, in time for its 40th anniversary, DALI announced the Epicor series, a loudspeaker incorporating Core technology but in a more compact form factor and looking back at the legacy of the Epicon series. The first model to be unveiled was the Deli Epicor 11, shown at CEDIA Expo 2023 in Denver. It is a 4.5-way floor-standing loudspeaker that each houses four 8-inch bass drivers, a new 6.5-inch mid-range driver with a clarity cone, multi-layer paper with wood fibers, diaphragm, and an updated hybrid tweeter. Despite close partnerships in distribution, DALI is still a privately owned Danish company. Since 2011, the CEO of DALI has been Lars Wør, an engineer and manager who has been with the company for many years. It is Wør who has become the face of DALI at presentations in recent years, giving interviews and talking about the firm's vision. DALI's headquarters and development center are in the small town of Nørrebro, and production is split between Danish facilities and its own factory in China. As of 2024 and 2025, the company's product lines range from the budget Spectre and Oberon series, including the revamped Oberon C, to the high-end Kore and Epikore, which compete with the world's best speakers. In addition to all this, the company recently launched the IO12 high-end headphones, which quickly won the EISA award for Best Wireless Hi-Fi Headphones. To summarize, by 2025, DALI is a dynamic brand with a 40-year history that has managed to harmoniously combine tradition and innovation. We can say that today Danish DALI confidently continues to develop and delight fans with new technologies and its signature sound. As you understand, the video has come to an end. Thank you very much for watching. You know how to support the channel. Until the next video.